unless I figure out a spraying contract and a fertilizing contract. Oh, I can do that one. 123. Where is 123? 123 is over here somewhere. Oh, I just did that one. Ah, do it again. Okay, anyway, let's turn this on and see how difficult this one's going to turn out. Oh, this is turning out easier to spot again. So I don't have a huge layer of nitrogen on this field. Compared with end requirements. So definitely using up some here. 3, 4, 4, 7 we started, we're already 20 down. But yeah, I could go and fertilize that field. I think I've got enough fertilizer left. And then as I said, we've got some mowing needs done. And I don't know. I don't want to do that spraying contract. Not at all. Because if I do that, that will make today our day for contracting. And I think the field 52, 53, whichever one we don't own, is going to be cuttable within the next 2-3 days. And I want to make sure I get that one. Oh look. Somebody wants to have that done. What is he saying? Let's say goodbye. So put that on a worker just briefly. Now I'm going to take it off a worker and go on, turn that on again. Unwanted spam messages. Have fun with that. So I guess the question is, do I want to add a GPS to this tractor before the end of this year? Because after this work's done, I don't need GPS until we're doing all of the liquid and solid application of stuff next year. So probably good enough. We can save ourselves 15,000 now and spend it next year. Really? I haven't fixed that yet. Oh, come on. Really? Let's dunk into that. Okay, let's fold it up. Move forwards, unfold it. No, unfold. Turn it back on again. Okay, there we go. And my dislike of large booms on sprayers is still a thing. And part of the deal with the manure is when you spread manure, unless you've got the mixer attacher to your manure tank, it doesn't spread uniformly, and you can only do that with slurry as well. So we're kind of stuck with. It's always, the map is always going to look blotchy on the nitrogen content. Because of the lack of accuracy on the spread. And since we're doing a lot of solid manure spreading, I just have zero control over that. So I'm just applying at a rate, but the amount of nitrogen within that rate is somewhat variable. And the only way to get things uniform is to go over with a sprayer or a spreader afterwards. And the other thing you've got to watch is, just because you're doing that, if you've overspread an area with manure, then you're just going to end up with too much nitrogen on that patch of ground. Whereas doing everything with just artificial fertilizer is going to get you a very accurate field map when it comes to application of nitrogen. The other issue you have is where you haven't planted anything, you don't harvest, so the nitrogen is there from last year. And we had canola on this field, which is absolutely horrible when it comes to nitrogen requirements. And so, yeah, nitrogen was maximum on this field last year, and needs to be fairly high, but not the highest. Oh, this is... I am quite possibly going to end up overspraying some areas of this field, but I think this is the track I ended up on last time. So we should spray from at least the right side of the sprayer. That's close enough, I think. There we go. Can I see anything with the lights on? Not so much. Okay. Turn the lights back off. Oh. Looks like I missed some weeds on this field too. Ah well, it is what it is. Yeah, canola is a much easier crop to do this with, because it's just so demanding of nitrogen that if you spread up to about 100, 120 with the manure, you're always going to need a significant amount more. I think I should be able to. Oh. I jump out here, you'll see the nitrogen's 160 over 140. So we're over applied at this point. We're a little under in front of us, but that's because the spray is behind us. It says good. I actually let's jump out again. So we've only got a good level at 170 over 140, and we're expecting a 92% yield. As we get down to 140, 150, I don't know. Even this isn't entirely accurate. Anyway, it is what it is. We'll get what we get. Still. So I might need to play with our manure application and see if we can come up with something that's a little bit more, a little bit easier to cope with. So we won't spread, obviously canola, I can spread it up to 120, 140, and there's always going to be more required. But I think for the cereal crops, I probably want to look at 80 to 120 with the manure, and then the top off with the liquid. Am I going the right way? I am going mostly the right way. There we go. Because what we should be seeing here is a completely uniform application, but because some parts of the field have too much, it's going to be too much in places. Not 4 degrees, let's try 0. There we go. BMW 3 Series convertible and a Mini Cooper. Driven an old 3 Series on Brands Hatch Racecourse. Back when my dad and I did a drive around a racetrack for a day. And you sort of turn up, there's some classroom time, and then you get to drive around the course with an instructor, and then without. And Brands Hatch is not a particularly fast course, I would say. My first familiarity with it was with the motorcycle Grand Prix. Because it has, going past the start-finish line is about the straightest part of the course that you can get. The rest of the course is pretty much all corners. Some of them very tight. Yes. Yeah, unless you get the X-Drive version, you are stuck with a rear-wheel drive, which, hey, if you live down south, isn't a problem. If you live up north, it's probably going to sat in the shed for half the year because of all the white stuff. personally I'll stick with my Saab. Built by Swedes who have winter for 12 months out of the year, so they kind of build a good car for that. The other option is a Volvo, but that's not really a sports sedan. That's more of a family car. Okay, that's the top. So done. I think there's a little bit over here that hasn't been done yet. And of course, it's almost impossible to track. So we'll just drive down here, see what happens, and call it a day. Oh, there's a bit. Yeah, I did have that. When I first moved out here in 1999, the company that brought me over leased us an apartment and a car for a month. And I think I carried on, rented us an apartment and a car for a month. So we had to move out after the first month. Which we did, and then buy furniture. So we carried on with the car rentals for 2 further months. Then bought my wife a car. I think we got the Grand Am, which was a nice car. And then about 3 or 4 months later, I got myself a Subaru Impreza, the old 2000 model. And oh my goodness, the all-wheel drive on that was probably the best car I have ever driven. That thing just drove on rails. And it was a stick. So, yay, happiness all around. But Mrs. Osa didn't like it so much because it's a very stiff ride. So, once the lease on that ran out, I went around a lot of dealerships. BMW didn't really want me. Audi just sort of, yeah, we don't want to know you until you've decided to actually buy something, in which case we might entertain showing you what we've got. So sort of, yeah, okay, whatever. And I ended up at the Saab dealership, and they just sort of said, yeah, we got cars, which one do you want? Let's take a look at one. So we did, and I liked it, so I've driven Saabs ever since then. Back in the UK, the only car I ever owned was a Peugeot 405, and obviously no French manufacturers in the states of North America, so not something I could get again. I think if I could have got a 15-year-old Peugeot 5 Series, which is the sort of the super wagon. It's a little bit big for me. I don't need something quite that size. Plus 15 years old. It's sort of, yeah, no. I'll drive a 15-year-old car if I've driven it from day one. That's why I've still got the Saab. Bought that in 2009, and it's still running well. I think front seat frame broke, so we replaced that just before Christmas, and there was something else that was a problem. can't remember, but minor issue. We got that addressed, and now it should go for another year without too much of an issue. I did take a look at Scions, but yeah, it was one of those not really my thing. Although they did a collab with Subaru. I don't know how that went. I don't think that ended up going too well. As I said, I did like my Subaru. In actual fact, why am I spraying this field? This field looks like it's already done. This is a canola field. I already sprayed the canola fields. Let's skip this one. So this is a canola field. Okay. Time to check the field colours. Oh, I've got 3 canola fields. Okay, that one got done. That one got done. That was barley. Yes, so that one was done. That one was done. So all I've got to do is 57, 58, and 54. 53 is the contract I'm hoping for. Which, as I said, I don't think that's up yet. The cows are getting to 25,000 litres. And I'm not knocking that, because if I remember rightly, Scion is an alternate Toyota label. And Toyota do tend to make good cars. Although, as far as I'm aware, they also lie about them and their reliability. Supposedly, well, what you're supposed to do, if you find a problem with your vehicle, if a manufacturer finds a problem with a vehicle that would entail a recall, they're supposed to tell the government that they need to recall the vehicle, and then there's all sorts of paperwork that they have to do just to show that they're they're actually doing the recall and replacing all the parts. Well, early on, Toyota would determine that they had a bad component on the car, and so they would offer all their customers a free service. Come in for a free oil change and we'll replace the part while it's there and not tell anybody.
There's the best food at home.
And so when people did the, hey, who does the most reliable cars, they would find that Toyota had the fewest recalls. And it was because, the assumption then was that, oh, well, their vehicles aren't recalled very often, so they must make very reliable vehicles. And truth be told, they were just not telling anybody when they had a problem. At least that was back then. I think somebody mentioned something, and at that point they were told quite categorically, no, if you find you've got bad parts on your cars, you need to recall and you need to go through the paperwork. Okay. This is going to be another field. We've got an excess of nitrogen in some places. This is definitely persuading me that I maybe should think about installing GPS on this tractor. Whee. Again. So this one we're running 90 and 270, so that's good. That's... Cars catching a light suddenly is usually not a good thing. I'm trying to think what else I've been watching. Oh, I became aware that this is the year that the British government got involved with railways in England 100 years ago to the year and 75 years ago to the year. In 1923, following the First World War and the fact that a lot of railway companies were having financial difficulties because, well, the government had told them you have to provide us with services and we're not paying you for them. A lot of the companies were having extreme problems keeping a service going. And so the British government got involved and basically said, while we would like to nationalise the railways, we don't think we could get away with it. So instead, we're just going to amalgamate all of the dozens of railway companies into 4 big companies. And that's where the term the Big Four comes in, is the Big Four companies. And they ran for 25 years until just after the Second World War, at which point the new Labour government decided, yeah, we can nationalise the railways, and took all of the tracks, rolling stock and everything and made them part of a government-run operation. So it is the centenary of the Big Four and 75 years since British Rail came into being. And British Rail, they were looking at sort of modernising, and it was understood the Big Four probably couldn't afford to modernise their routes, basically diesels and electrics. Some of them were doing it, but it was a very small, half-hearted operation because they just didn't have the finances to do their entire networks. Well, frankly, neither did British Rail. But it was government-owned, so the government came in and said, hey, we want lots of locomotives, brand new diesels that do all the things that the steam locomotives used to do. And the upshot of that was they got some very dodgy pieces of equipment, because it was basically a case of anybody who wants to offer to build a locomotive, the government would say, yeah, build us 50. And there was at least one model that also tried to kill people by catching on fire, which on a train is not a good thing. They did come out with some very impressive models that were used for 50, 60 years. Some of them still in use today, even though